Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Treat Your Business podcast. My name is Katie Bell. I'm excited for this episode because I have a guest coming on, and I love guest episodes because, well, it isn't just me blathering on about something, but it's always inspires me. I know it inspires you and our listeners. But Michael is back. Michael O'Reilly is back for the second time on the podcast because the first one was so great. If you haven't listened to his original episode, go back to that. It was July, August time last year, 2024. And we were talking about how to save your thumbs and create additional revenue in your clinic. And he is back because his product has exploded in the marketplace and more clinics are using it with fabulous results. But we are diving into the challenge we have as clinic owners for the younger physios, the newer physios coming through that really struggle with the sales conversation and inviting that sale. And we're going to dive deep into why we think that's happening and what we can do to support them. And we're also going to be talking about when you implement something new in your clinic, whether it's a piece of equipment, a piece of technology, why it's so important that this becomes a habit-driven behavior, a way that you work, because so many clinics we see invest in equipment, invest in technology, and it sits there and it doesn't bring them that return on investment that they need. Or if it does, it takes too long for that to happen. Or equally, they invest in some equipment and it sits in the stock room and depreciates over time. And then you are left with a whole load of stuff that you need to shift and sell a discount. This conversation is a much bigger deep dive than perhaps maybe either of us were expecting, but I think you're going to get a lot of value from it. Welcome to the Treat Your Business podcast with Katie Bell. I'm Katie, and this is the place where clinic owners like you learn the strategies, tools, and mindset shifts needed to transform your clinic into a thriving business, one that gives you more time, more money, and more freedom. Born from a passion to challenge the idea that average is normal, we empower clinic owners to create extraordinary businesses, incomes, and lives. Through our world-class coaching programs, we help you step out of overwhelm and into confidence, turning your clinic into a business that fuels your lifestyle, not draining it. So, are you ready? Let's dive in. I'm delighted to tell you this episode of the Treat Your Business podcast is proudly brought to you by Nookal, the leading practice management software designed to streamline operations and empower every allied health clinic. Their platform seamlessly handles every aspect of your clinic, from scheduling and clinical note-taking to invoicing and reporting. Their innovative solution will help streamline your clinic and free up your valuable time, allowing you to focus on delivering better patient care and growing your business. So if you're tired of juggling multiple systems and wasting precious hours on administrative tasks, then experience the innovation of Nookal and discover how it can improve the efficiency and profitability of your practice. Visit nookal.com today to learn more about how their automated features and user-friendly interface can revolutionize the way you manage your practice. Unlock the full potential of your clinic with Nookal, the practice management software that puts you in control of your time. Now, let's get back to business. Hello, Michael. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hello, Katie. Thank you very much for having me back again. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
You are so welcome. I'm really excited for this conversation as ever, because the first time we spoke, you had lots of people interested in what you were talking about, how it can, I think the episode was something about save your thumbs and invest in this, or it was something like that, wasn't it? So if you haven't listened to it, listeners, go back to last year. It's around July, August time. And me and Michael were having a great conversation about something that you have invented, you have created, have established it in your own clinic, and it has just made you tens of thousands of additional revenue of income.
Yeah.
But then over the last year, this product really now has grown into a much bigger thing. And you were updating me just before we went live, Michael, about some of the exciting things that have happened with it. So let's go back to the beginning. So some of our listeners will be listening to this for the first time. Tell everybody who you are and what it is we are talking about.
So I'm Michael O'Reilly. My East handle is the .net .physio. And that's because I've spent probably the last 20 odd years specializing in upper quadrant problems and neck pain and headache, etc. And based on what I had learned and was constantly looking for ways of managing these conditions better because they just tend to come back over time because of what I refer to as the prevailing wind of the information age. The prevailing wind of the information age is pushing us all into flexion all the time. And so we're always sowing the seeds of these problems. So I was always looking for ways of trying to help patients cope better and achieve sustainability and balance in their biomechanics and in their days and weeks. And anyway, long story short, that led to me coming up with this idea for what's now the Optineck Balance Wedge, which is about addressing the fundamental drivers of upper quadrant dysfunction. We've been pushed into flexion all the time, and gravity is pulling us in that direction. So the wedge is about making it quick, easy, and effective for patients to restore that trunk balance, so restore extension, restore thoracic spine mobilization, anterior chain release, and help them to help themselves better. Yeah, and I came up with the idea. The first seed of the idea was during lockdown, which is now a good 5 years ago. But since then we've been through some really exciting developments, opportunities, and we've exported to South Africa, we're exporting to New Zealand, we shipped to the US, we shipped to all across all across the EU, to Germany, Holland, etc. And it's really becoming quite a bit of a cornerstone, as it were, for a lot of Pilates studios. And I was just in a conversation this morning with a few excellent Pilates teachers, and they were saying how that's not only they're using it all the time, but they're having their clients come in saying, "Oh, can we do that work on the wedge?" And so there's it really very nicely ties together the whole sort of rehab journey from hands-on treatment all the way through to like Pilates and other rehab, and then to day-to-day or everyday use for patients and clients in their front room. To just help all of us move better for longer. That's the fundamental, is that we want to move better for longer.
I know that you work with so many physios and osteos and Pilates instructors. So people now are really seeing the benefit of using this in their practice, not only to save their thumbs, just to optimize the results that they get, rather than just having to hammer away on a thoracic spine for 30 minutes. You can do so much more while still restoring extension.
Absolutely.
So for me, because I use it a lot in my practice, I use it in my teaching, my Pilates classes. I use it with lots of my patients who are with me for any upper thoracic, neck, shoulder stuff. And it just allows a real opening. And what I love about this product, Michael, is the minute that you get them out, that feels good. So like, everybody does that.
Yeah.
And I like waiting for it. I'm like, just wait till you've done that roll down. And they go, and I'm like doing it with them, because I have one, we've laughed before, Michael, I have one in my front room. In my living area, and I lie on it almost every night. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because my work is sitting at a desk a lot, or if I'm not over a desk, I'm over. So everything is forward flexion. There's so many ways that you can use it. You can optimize how you treat. It really leans into is for those clinics who are here to help people live better for longer. I know that's something your clinic's really passionate about. We talk about moving better, feeling better, and living better. This really leans into how you facilitate that for a patient, how you not just, do 5 sessions, 3 sessions, 2 additional income stream. You save your thumbs. You don't have to invest huge capital expenditure up front to be able to bring this into your clinic. There's so many benefits. I'm as passionate about it as you are, Michael, as you probably can tell. This is why you're in, but I want everybody to know about it. But I also think what we're here to talk about today, Michael, is it's amazing. I love it. If you've not got one, you need to order one just for yourself and experience it. First of all. But secondly, I think what's really important is on this podcast, we always try and bring light and shadow to everything, because there's always a balance, isn't there? And we want to talk today specifically about how do you, when you go to Therapy Expo and you come to your fabulous stand that you had there in November, and you were so busy, like every time I looked over, you were flat out with people on the bed, trying it, doing it, having great conversations. But I know, because I was also there, that what our biggest challenge is, Michael, is people are very excited in the moment about it. But then the actual follow-up and the follow-through of implementing that into your clinic and moving it forward, it is much harder than we give people credit for, because we think, oh, you just need to buy it and you just need to put it into your clinic and just start using it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there is a bigger strategy to this. There is a bigger thing that they need to consider about them being passionate and their team also being passionate about it. Because otherwise it's something that you buy and then nothing really happens with. And that's a really big challenge for clinic owners with any equipment, isn't it? So
absolutely.
Tell me about your experience, because you've had, so many people have introduced it to their clinics. But ultimately, you need repeat orders. That's what the business requires to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know what clinics are implementing it and using it and selling it based on how many orders that they're then making and buying it, but then not doing a whole lot with it.
Yes.
So in your experience, why? What happens there?
I think that's a really interesting question. It's and just coming back to it's obviously my aim is one in every household. And the thing that really drives me is that I feel so passionately about is that we give our best years. We can fall into a trap where we give the best years of our life to our careers and to our working days. And then by the time we come out the other end of it, we're so crook, we're so stiff, we're so decrepit that we don't actually get to enjoy the freedom that we've worked so hard to achieve. So for me, it's when I get frustrated about how is it so something has started, there's been great excitement, great momentum, and that's dropped off. It's as much about I'm thinking you've got patients who want this, and patients who need this. What's happening that they're not being introduced to us? And that's a bigger thing that sort of frustrates me.
One of our other things that we talk about quite a lot is we are challenged, you and I, by the challenge that our industry struggle to have the sales conversation. In our head, we're like, just to ask them, do they want to buy it or do they not?
Yeah.
We also sit in a position, Michael, that we've done a lot of work on ourselves, on our confidence, we're very passionate. We have a very clear purpose. And when you have a very clear purpose about what you do and why you do it, it becomes really easy to have that conversation, because you're not having the conversation because of the money. You're having the conversation because it leans into the why that you are doing this in the first place. And and I say to our clinicians, so the options are, you can explain how you can help them get from where they are now to where they want to be in the most cost-effective, time-effective way. Or you don't have the conversation and you facilitate ongoing pain. So get out your own way and have the conversation. Now, for you and me, Michael, this is something we do all the time because we're so passionate about why I do what I do, why you do what you do. It doesn't ever become about the money. It's never about the money, is it? It's about I know this is what they need to help them move forward, to live better for longer, for all those things. And so that's when you really focus on that, you can then have these conversations easier. But for you, I know people struggle when they buy the wedge, they make the investment to then be able to say to a patient, this is
for sure.
And do you think, because I think that's a big player in it, do you think that's one of the big reasons why we might start and then stop, or why people reluctantly don't then get involved even if they were very excited about it at an exhibition, for example?
It's an interesting thing, because I'm just thinking about the practices that are really successful, you are really running with it, and then knocking on my door saying, can we have another 8? Can we have another 16? And what probably helps is that it is driven by the practice owner, in that they've had the personal experience of it. And that's, I think, is the key thing, is that, and where one of the USPs of the wedges is that once you've had that, I feel so good, I can't wait to get on the wedge, then it just comes out of you. You've gone from that, this is something I should do, to a conversation I should have, to it's a conversation I want to have. And that I think is the really big thing. So it's about having personal experience, because as you obviously know the saying of sales is nothing other than a transfer of enthusiasm. Manufacture enthusiasm. You've got to, you either have it for something or you don't, or you can't sustainably manufacture enthusiasm. So I think that's one of the key things. I think another quite interesting thing is that a lot of it's got to do with age as well, I would say, or the aging process. And that is when you have physios who are coming in who are 22, 23, 24, and they're super mobile and they're flexible, and they just don't get it because they'll get on the wedge and they'll be like, okay, I don't know what this is all about, because they're blessed with young, flexible, mobile systems.
Yeah.
But then if you go into those who are a decade older and they're like, now, okay, I can feel what it's like because I'm starting to step, and now I can do it. So I guess what I'm saying is it comes down to that personal experience and that thing that then creates the buy-in that runs with it. And I think it's also really valuable. I think one of the best things that can happen to us as physios is to have our own injuries and our own action plans, because that really puts us in a position that the patient is experiencing. Right. You go to uni, you go to the courses, you do all these things, you learn all about it. But until you've been in the position of experiencing the emotions, not only the symptoms, but the emotions and the questions and the thoughts or whatever about it, you don't truly understand, you know? Mm. And I found this when I had a skiing crash a few years ago, and then ended up having to have an ACL repair. And it was just such an informative process to be on the other side of the fence. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what I'm always like driving with our team is put yourself on the other side of the fence. And only once you've experienced those aches and pains, can you then experience this has made so much difference to me. And and the important thing is that you remember what sticks in your mind is the person that brought you that answer. And that is really valuable in the long term, because this is the person who you then trust. And this is the person who you're going to go to when other things happen. And they're basically going to be your go-to therapist or your go-to practice. So it's a thing of bring something, I'm going off on tangents here, but bring something unique. Give patients the opportunity to experience something unique. Yeah. But I think what I'm learning is that there's things, I guess it's touching on what you were saying before. There's things that are completely obvious to you and I that we don't even think about just because of our journeys and things that we focused on. And we make the mistake of assuming that they're completely obvious to everybody else. And so I then really have to remind myself, isn't it obvious that this is why you would do it and this is what you would do on it? But I need to think, no, but that's because I've got the benefit of seeing thousands and thousands of patients like this. So I mustn't assume that it'll be obvious to you as well. So putting myself back to say, no, go back and state the obvious, because it's not obvious to everyone.
It's really not. And Michael, we run a therapist transformation course and we do it twice a year. Yeah. And that's for all of our clients on program who are clinic owners, who have team. Yes. And often the biggest challenge is, why do my clinic owners and my team members not convert patients from new patient assessment to follow up like I do? Yeah. And why do they not? Why is the follow-up rate crap? Yeah. Why are they doing them like twice when mine might be 8, 9 or whatever? Yeah. And this is the biggest challenge. There is an age thing always that seems to happen. And so what the clinic owners do is they send them on our therapist transformation course. So they get a whole day with me and then they get 4 weeks of support afterwards and follow up. And this is for clinic owners who, they can be great clinically, okay, but they lack confidence. Yeah. And they have a set of limiting beliefs that were given to them growing up that means having a money conversation is extremely awkward for them. Mm. And I'm going to be very judgmental here, but they're all means testing their patients. Mm. They're all making a decision on the patient's behalf whether or not they can afford it before they've even had the conversation. And they're focusing on the money rather than the outcome and the solution that they're able to provide and what that is going to do to their life. And we call it a transformation because they literally go through this whole transformation of how they then talk to the patient, understand, be on that side of the fence and understand what they're going through, and then take them to the other side, so that if they felt a balanced wedge then was absolutely going to optimize their treatment, their results, their long-lasting results, then there's no worry about saying, and this is how we work here, and I would like you to take one of these away with you, because this is not only going to mean you get the benefit of seeing me once a week, but this is going to be like 7 days worth of physio, 7 days of physio. It comes easy because you're focusing on the outcome, the solution, the thing that the patient really needs rather than money. So I think for you, I'd have to bring myself back and be like, wow, it's just obvious that you need, in my professional opinion. And they will either say yes or no. And if they say no, it's often because they haven't associated the value of what you're going to deliver because you've not communicated it well enough. So I think it's interesting for you, Michael, with clinic owners coming on board. Your clinic owners might well be great. I can sell this all day long because I am 10, 15, 20 years clinical experience. I know what my patients need. I'm happy to have that conversation. But the trickle effect through the team is much, much harder.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And so what we've been developing is application videos. So not only have we got the foundational exercise videos, which are all for dissemination to the end user, as in the patients and clients, but we've also been developing educational videos and hands-on treatment videos just to introduce to that. Because I've been quite surprised because people say, do I need to be trained on it? I'm like, we can train you on it, but actually just have the confidence to do what you are already doing. Really interesting challenge. And the irony of this is that how readily habits are formed, positive corrective habits are formed on it, because it's easy to use, it's immediately rewarding. It's you in 10 minutes you can feel amazingly different, etc. But the barrier to its further dissemination is the habits of the clinician, in that the clinicians are gravitating back to what they've been doing for the last 5 years and 10 years. And I'm as guilty as that as anyone, because that's just human nature. And we go on a course, whatever the course may be. Monday, we're like super excited. We do it with every single patient. Friday, we're doing it with every second patient. The next Friday down the line, we're doing 20% of it. And in the end, we may only keep 10% of what we've learned. So that's just the way it is, because in order to get through a busy clinical week, you need an element of autopilot.
Yes.
To help carry you through. As much as we hate to admit it, we need an element of autopilot, because we would just burn our brains out completely if we didn't have that.
Yeah.
So our challenge is to try and tweak those autopilots, and be that for any sales conversation and it's interesting that you talk about your program for the therapists themselves, because what I've realized over the last few years is we've had a couple of physios who've joined us from the NHS, and I've realized that there's a real art and skill to private practice delivery that is completely not clinically related at all.
Absolutely.
It's all about confidence. It's all about having the goal. It's about taking charge, because in the end, that's what patients want us to do. When you walk into somewhere, they want you to take the lead and say, this is what you've got. This is what we found. This is where we're going. And this is how we're going to get there. That's what patients want. But that's a skill that takes time to develop. So we become a lot quicker at identifying that and saying we need to intervene here, not wait to see that, oh gosh, those retention numbers are only 2 appointments or 3 appointments. So yes, I think we might be sending some of our physios onto your course.
The results we get are amazing. And we do a form before they join the program, Michael, and like they have to rate themselves, and their clinical practice owner or lead rates them in terms of certain areas. And the one word that is on every single form, we had 19 on it in the last month. Every single one was said, I lack confidence. And I share with them the 4 C's formula. It wasn't invented by me, it was invented by a guy called Don Sullivan, but he talks about the 4 C's. And the 4 C's are commitment, leads to capabilities, that leads to courage, capabilities, and then confidence. And he said, and what tends to happen is that everybody, 98% of the population, wait to feel confident before they make the commitment to do it. And then when they make the commitment, capabilities and the courage shows up. You are on the podcast, Michael. People will listen to it and they'll go, oh, okay. I've got some new learning. I've got some new education. I'm going to go on this course. I'm going to find out ways. I'm going to do it. But they will wait to feel confident before they will make the commitment to the patients. They will say, I am really confident that we can get you better. I'm really confident we can do something about that. I'm really confident you're in the right place. They don't want to do that. Because they're waiting to feel confident before they make the commitment. We've got a massive bunch of people out there that are I'm going to say it, flaky, vague, don't lead in sessions. don't really own it with patients, and the patients then leave very confused. They don't really feel like they know where they're going. They might be being seen very sporadically or too long between appointment times, and that for me is a massive failure on those halves, especially in the first instance of seeing them. And I always say, you have to commit first. Have to make the commitment. The capabilities and the courage will then show up, and then you will feel confident. And then when you feel confident, you will commit at a higher level next time. It's about stopping and holding yourself, or really reflecting and going, am I waiting to have used the wedge so many times before I feel confident to then say, okay, now I'm going to use it in this part of my practice all the time? Or I think people we're such an instant gratification society. And if you patient one, session one, we think, oh, I'll change tact, I'll go on to this instead. And I remember from my training, Michael, I don't know about the same for you, my university lecturers, they used to say, you do something and you do something consistently. And I'm sure they used to say 4 times. Where they got that evidence from, I don't know. But it was like, don't change tact until you have done this for at least 4 sessions, because you're never giving anything any time to work. But I guess with our younger physios coming through, our physios coming out the NHS into the private practice, this completely different skill set. A completely different skill set to being a private physio. And because we're so worried about people paying us, if we're not seeing quick wins, day 1, session 1, minute 1, we're panicking and thinking, I need something else. I need another tool. I need another course. And we go through this cycle then of never really owning what we do and being confident about what we do.
No, absolutely. It's such an interesting thing because, even though it was my idea, and when I think back to when we had the first prototypes and I started using the patients, and this is why I'm really sympathetic to that whole habit change thing. And what you're saying is those 4 C's is the root of that, or part of it, is habits, isn't it? And the confidence that comes with it. But so I'm sympathetic to that challenge because I had to force myself to start using my own idea. And even I've gotten to the point where I'll say to the patient, you need to buy one of those, full stop, because I know, and I've had the confidence to know that you will love it. You may not love it immediately, but you will love it, and you will be very grateful for the fact that I've introduced you to it. In 5 years and 10 years and 20 years time, you will be grateful for it. So it is that, it's exactly as you say, you keep building on, like you lay a foundation around, and then when you were talking there, it reminds me of the whole thing of you've got to fake it till you become it.
True. Oh, don't we just?
No.
And there's so many times that I look at what you're doing, Michael, and what we're doing in Thrive. And was I absolutely confident to go and step on stage at Clinic Growth Live, having never run anything like that before? Absolutely not. But did I just make the commitment on that's what we're going to do, because this is the reason why we do what we do? We're so passionate about it. I had to get out of my own way. And now we're thinking, okay, our next date is being set for next year. We're going for double numbers in the room because I committed, my courage, capabilities showed up, and now my confidence is higher. So I'm like, okay, let's go bigger. Let's go to the next level. And that's what happens, isn't it? But you have to get out of your own way first of all.
Sure, because then you also got the evidence of how much you're benefiting your Thrive clients, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's the thing then. So it's reversing what we're saying, like you have to try to build the confidence to do it, where you should just invest and then do it. But now that you're adding all that value and you are making difference to practice owners, but the important thing then is that it's actually, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when I think about it, it's not about, we're going back to what we were saying earlier, it's not about just flogging a wedge, it's about changing an existence. So by empowering and optimizing your clinic owners, it's actually about making more of a difference to more patients, isn't it?
Because I want to impact health on a massive level. And I can't do that being a clinic owner myself, because there's an amount I probably can reach. But I can empower my team. Okay, there's a bigger amount. But actually, if I've got a network of clinic owners all over the UK and Ireland who are running extraordinary businesses, creating extraordinary incomes, their community and their population on an extraordinary level. And now we've just got that ripple effect where we're now working not just with 1,000 people or 10,000 people, but hundreds of thousands of people are being impacted by what we do. And it's the same for you, Michael.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Amazing. We've got a new practice manager who's joined us, and actually it was during the team meeting yesterday that I was talking to the team about saying, what is our ideal patient? And from my view, our ideal patient, this is for our physio practice, is a self-referred, self-funding patient, because we're not dependent on anyone else other than their decision to engage with our services or not. And when I was explaining it to the team, I was saying, basically, when your eggs are in a few consultant baskets or a few insurance baskets, you're really quite limited, because those are your bottlenecks. Those are essentially, for want of a better word, your salespeople. But actually what you want to do is get to the point where every single one of your patients is your salesperson. So then, rather than being dependent on 5 or 6 different entities, your risk is spread across, in our case, like 22, 23,000 patients. And we want every single one of those to be a salesperson. And what I think for the wedge is that the more wedges we can get people using, every one of those wedge users is going to become a salesperson for our next one. And we've more and more of the purchases that are coming through are word of mouth, or I'm getting one for my daughter at university, or a friend at work told me about this. And so it is, and this is what then encourages me, because at the times, like we spoke about in our last podcast, when you just don't get replies to emails, nobody picks up the phone, etc. I then think, okay, but you know what? The people who are using it are loving it, and they are sending other people in that direction. So I need to picking up my skin and just be prepared to get a few more, sorry, not interested or no time, or send an email, not expecting to be replied to, because some will, majority won't. But it's about, what's the thing that drives you on? What's the thing that fuels you? And for me, that is, if we don't empower patients with the understanding and the tools to cope with living in the information age, we are going to have a massively decrepit society in a very short space of time. And the society, not only the individual quality of life cost, but the society cost for that is going to be huge. And so I think I've been given the opportunity to take this really simple idea out to the world, and I feel a burning responsibility to do so.
It's incredible. This is about when you can pull yourself out of the day-to-day and the grind and what I'm hearing from this conversation, Michael, so much is we've got our eye on a much bigger picture in the day-to-day. Patients are really important to us. Of course, they're our bread and butter. But all the clinic owners listening to this podcast, I really want them to glean from this that you've got to pull yourself out. And we did this on some strategy days last week, and it was really thinking about the bigger reason that you exist. Because it isn't just about rehabbing an ACL or whatever bullshit things that they say. You've just really said that you've got this burning desire. You've got you feel like it's a responsibility to impact societal change before it's too late and we're in a state where we can't then really do anything about it. And I think lots of clinic owners go into private practice because they do have this fire. They do have this passion. And then what happens is life and business just comes in and treads all over that.
And it grinds you down.
It grinds you down. And then we have them and they ring us and they say, I'm overwhelmed, I'm exhausted. My business. And we always go back to, okay, let's step back. Why did you do this in the first place? And there's always a bigger picture. There's always a bigger reason. And it's aligning your business model to serve that.
Give that reason,
And I think that's so key for me in when people invest in any technology, any equipment, and I want it to be the balance wedge, but they've got to pull themselves out of the day-to-day. To really go, does this align with our whole premise as a company and our purpose and why we do what we do? Because then they've got the passion behind it. It then becomes how you work rather than just, sometimes we do this and sometimes we don't. Just I'm sure, Michael, if we came into your clinic, every upper quadrant patient would just you would just treat them not in the same way, but you have a process and a method, and the balance wedge would be probably in 95% of your sessions.
Yeah.
And it's just the way that you do it.
Yeah.
So it then becomes a very easy, this is how we work. This is what makes us different. And I am going off on a tangent here. Indulge me for a second. We get a lot of clinic owners worrying about competition.
Yeah.
And they worry about, oh, there's another physio down the road or whatever. I've got competitors. And I just never see it like that, because I think everybody works differently.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to showcase that and market that, so that you can't be compared. And there is always enough work to go around. And I think that's what clinic owners can do so much more of.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And that ultimately, Michael, then means that when they do invest in equipment like yours, you're going to see that repeat business. You're going to see that commitment. They're going to see the reoccurring revenue or increase, the income increase from it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is some of the biggest barriers that we see.
Yeah.
When people do make this investment at exhibitions, there's a list of things they come away with, don't they? Buy these new wheat bags, I'm going to invest in these compression stockings, I'm going to buy the latest tech art therapy.
Yeah.
Great. But don't try and do it all at once.
Yeah.
And don't dilute yourself too quickly as a clinic owner. They've got a bazillion things they're trying to do at once. And they buy the wedge off you, Michael. They get 25 in the clinic and nothing really happens. Or it has a little bit of momentum and then it stops. And a big part of this is because they're trying to do too many things at once.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I can imagine. And wearing my practice owner, I'm really quite well aware of that. But I've also, I guess I'm probably a little bit wise to that. So whenever requests come in for more equipment and stuff, I'm like, okay, how does this align with what we're doing, as you say? And how much is this going to be used? And for how long is it going to be used? And is it just going to be cash that's then sitting in the corner, progressively draining away until I've got to stick it on eBay and sell it for a tenth of what we paid for it? So
the reality, isn't it? There will be clinics across the country with stock cupboards full of crap. What we don't want is this to be another one of those things. So the key thing I really want clinic owners, for me, and I'm going to ask you the same, Michael, to take from this is pull yourself out of the day-to-day whenever you're looking at investing in something different or new in your clinic or finding a new way of working. Pull yourself out of the day-to-day and really think about the why, the bigger picture, the purpose, why you exist as a clinic and who you are trying to serve. Does this product align with that? Can it optimize what you do? And then put a process in place to ensure that your team are on board, that it's an easy to implement. They get rewarded by implementing it. And it's ever present. Like you said, you need ever present cues to ensure that you consistently use it in your practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say for any practice that's coming on board, I'll say what you really want to do is have one in every treatment room and make sure it's no further than arm's length away. Because if it's in another room or if it's in the gym, forget it. You'll do it a couple of times and then we talk about fast factor. What's the fast factor involved in doing that? And for anything, that is basically probably one of the most important things I look at when it comes to new equipment and all the rest, or software or whatever it is. I think, okay, what's the fast factor? Because in the end, as humans, we're all about conserving energy. And so we're going to then be, what's the path of least resistance?
You are so right. And only yesterday in my clinic, I don't do much clinical anymore, Michael, but we have one in every treatment room. They're literally in the basket next to the bed. And my first patient came in and for whatever reason, probably because I'm talking to you today, I was like, I'm going to use the wedge out. And then I probably used it in 75 today.
Wow.
Now, the Tuesday before, I don't even know if I got it out because it wasn't ever present in my head. But then two of them took them home. Somebody else, we have one that people can borrow and they just trial it for a week. And then because sometimes they need that, just rely on it. 10 minutes, no problem. And they inevitably just say, oh, I'll just keep it. It's great. So it's just having it at the forefront of your mind. And as a new clinician as well, I remember when I was first qualified, I was training in acupuncture, I was training in Pilates. What else did I do? Like all these skills that you feel like you need as a private practitioner when you were I was running the risk of trying to do too many things and and then I didn't know how to treat my patients anymore. I was like, oh, shall I be acupuncturing them? Shall I put them on the wedge? Shall I do this? Shall I move them? And I was overwhelmed. So I think it's recognizing as clinic owners where your therapists are in their journey of learning and how this becomes a tool in their toolbox, but not just another thing that's going to confuse them.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And to that end, I've got what I call the ratchets and wedges concept, which is basically fundamentally
filing cabinet.
Filing cabinets, going over. And so we've got some resources coming out about that. What we found really useful in our clinic and in other clinics is we just created the little laminate diagram of it to explain, picture the filing cabinet, picture the bowling ball. And that's over time we get short and tight at the front, we get stiff at the back, and that keeps our filing cabinet tilted forwards. But just having that little educational resource in the treatment room is so easy. You pick it up, show the patient, like, this is what's going on. This is why you got this neck pain, because your filing cabinet is stuck in. Because why I mention this is because it's coming back to those more newly qualified therapists and getting them to say, okay, let's just make this really simple. Right? When it comes to neck pain, when it comes to all these things, you've got all these other modalities that you can be using, but fundamentally, the first domino in this whole process is this trunk imbalance. So just start doing that and get that corrected as thick, and now you can go on to be doing the other bits and pieces. But without correcting that fundamental, that patient is not going to progress the way that they could do.
That's a really great way of looking at it, because like the other tools almost now in my mind are, once you've got the foundation laid, the other tools that you might be using, acupuncture for pain relief or soft tissue work or mobilizations, all then layer on the top of that, don't they?
Yep, for sure.
But they're not necessarily going to fix the problem.
Yep.
It's just going to treat the symptoms. Whereas this is, let's put that foundation in and then we can do all of this other stuff over the top.
Yeah. Because if we're not correcting, it comes back to that analogy of the prevailing wind, is that every day we're all being drawn into our screens, either mobile phones, laptops, whatever, over steering wheels. We're all being drawn into flexion all the time. So that is just driving the problem. So if we're not equipping patients with the ability to restore that balance on a regular basis, we can spend the rest of our professional lives treating the upper traps, trying to strengthen deep neck plexus, which will never strengthen if the whole thing is tilted forwards. And don't do that, do this. It's do this so that everything else you then do becomes far more effective. Because otherwise, if you don't do this first thing, you just keep feeding that problem. The moment they walk out, the moment they get back on their phone, they're feeding the problem again. So give them, and I think this is why patients are so enthusiastic and excited about the wedges, because they really can feel that it's correcting the fundamental issue. And then when we're treating, we're actually able to take good steps forwards, because we're just treating when we're treating soft tissue and joints and the rest of it, we're treating the consequence of it, but we're stopping the feeding of the fire in the first place. And then we get to the point where we've dealt with those things. They're in the habit of restoring that balance and bringing the sustainability. And then they're able to achieve a much better long-term outcome. Like I use this analogy whenever I see patients. I say, we're at a fork in the road. We're here, right? And now, if we don't help you to change your habits, then we don't help you to change what's going into your day. The further forwards we go, so 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you're going to be potentially in a very different place. Now, if we go on this road, then we would have been otherwise.
Wow.
Because it's on this road that got you to see me in the first place. So now the only way, it's not just about patching you up on the road and sending you carrying on the road that you're on. It's about saying, take the things, implement these habits, use these tools to make that small degree change now, which as the years go by is just going to become bigger and bigger. And that's the other thing we talk about. I want to make better 80-year-olds.
Oh, God. I love it.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell, Michael, we are two visionaries on a podcast episode talking together. It's fabulous. So, Michael, we are going to have some listeners that have heard about this for the first time, and I'm going to tell them the first thing that they need to do is just go and buy one for themselves.
Yes.
And use it, because they're all leaning over a plinth all day. If they're not there at a desk, if they're not there bent over with young kids, or we've got all this for action. So the first thing I'm going to say is go and buy a wedge. How do they do that?
So if you go to optineck.com /shop. There's, you can buy on there. If you are a rehab professional, we do have a discount code which will get you, they're normally 45, but the discount code will get you two for 60 basically, so 30 each. Reason why we do that is because you'll want one for home and you'll want one to start using in the clinic, and pretty much an order of 8 soon follows, because once you've experienced it, then it's like, I'll have a box of 8 and we'll have them in the clinic, and away we go. So either to email me directly, it's info@optineck.com, or just go to the optineck.com and contact us via the website. And then also just follow on Insta, it's Optineck_balance_wedge. And my handle is the.neck.physio. And we've got loads coming out through there. And actually just this morning, there was, like I said earlier, another Pilates teacher was put up a reel about how well she's using it on the reformer and how much patients are loving it and all. So,
wonderful. Okay. So that's the first bit of advice. And then for those people who have renewed optimism and excitement about this because they've spoken to you before, they just need to reach out directly to you, Michael, don't they? And restart that conversation.
Yes, absolutely. And as I said, we've got videos coming out over the next few weeks and months. And just because of, like I was saying earlier before, I thought, isn't it obvious that you would do this? But it's not. And that's because I've been doing it for as long as I have, and I need to remember that not everybody's had that opportunity.
Oh, Michael, I've loved this conversation.
Oh, thank you. So much. It's always so inspiring talking to you.
Yeah, and you. And I know that what I really love is that all of our listeners are also always inspired by these sorts of conversations, because it allows them to just get out the day-to-day and think bigger than what they're currently being able to think of at the moment, which is great. So let's do another one. Michael, thank you again on behalf of me and all the listeners for your time today.
Well, thank you very much, Casey. Lovely to see you as always.